Alright guys, so I wanted to take some time to go over these practice problems. These were on page 405 of that Algebra Review 1 that we started on last week. And so at the beginning here, we're just going to solve some of these problems. I'm just going to number these so it's easier for us to talk about them. So let me go ahead and do that. And then we can get started. So up here for number 1, we just need to solve this equation. The first thing we'll do is we will distribute our 4 because we need to get rid of our parentheses. So 4 times 3x is 12x. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. I'll bring down the negative 2, equal sign, and x plus 5. Now, on the left-hand side of my equation, I can combine like terms. So I'm talking about negative 4 and negative 2. Negative 4 and negative 2 together gives me negative 6. That's not 15. Let's see, let me clear that out. That's just a 5. All right, now from here I have x's on both sides. Remember, if it's just x, that means 1x. So we have to get our variables on the same side. This is where I say bring the baby to the mama. So take the smaller x value, in this case it'd be 1x, and we'll move it over to where the bigger x value is. Now guys, you can see I'm out of room, so I'm just going to move it up here. So I'm just looking first right now at this 12x minus 1x. That's going to give me 11x. I'll bring over the negative 6 equals, well, 1x minus 1x goes away, so it just equals 5. So from here, we'll add 6 to both sides. We get 11x equals 11. And finally, let's divide both sides by 11, and we get x equals 1. Okay. Number 2 is very similar. We have parentheses, we have to solve, but this time it's an inequality, if you guys notice. Excuse me. So to start off, guys, we will go ahead and we will distribute our 2. 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Now over here, it can lead to a little bit of confusion. We've got a negative sign there, but I have to kind of remember that there's technically a negative 1 there. And so I do want to go ahead and distribute that. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. And now I'll bring down my greater than and 7. So on the left-hand side of my inequality, I can combine like terms. So my x's will go together. 6x minus 1x gives me 5x. And on that same side, I can put together my negative 2 and my positive 4. So negative 2 plus 4 gives me 2. Okay, I still need to keep solving. I'm out of room, so I'm going to go over here. I'm just going to copy this here. So my next step would be to move that 2. I'm going to do minus 2 on each side of my inequality. That gives me 5x is greater than 5. And last step, divide by 5. So I end up getting x is greater than 1. Now this problem did not ask me to graph it, but if we did need to graph it, on my number line, I'd put the 1. Since it's just a greater than symbol, it's an open circle, and my line is going to go in the direction that my inequality symbol is pointing, in this case to the right. All right, let's take a look at problem 3. This is what we call a literal equation. These can be a little bit tricky. We talked about these on Friday. When it says solve for t, what that's basically saying is it's saying to get t by itself. So I'm going to begin by moving this p. Right now it's a positive p, so to move it I'll do minus p. So that'll give me a minus p equals PRT. Now I have to think for a moment about this PRT. And I'm thinking, how are PRT connected? Well, whenever you have variables just side by side like this, they're connected with multiplication. So PRT means P times R times T. And so again, if I'm focused on what my task is, which is to get this T by itself, I need to move P and R. So the opposite of multiplying by them is going to be divide by P and R. So again, guys, I got to take it over here. So I have A minus P over PR, matching pairs top and bottom cross out, so you have T by itself. That's my answer. These are a little strange because I'm not getting an answer like up above where, like on problem 1, I got x equals 1 or x is greater than 1. We're still having all of the variables in our answer. We're just moving things from one side to the other. All right, moving on to number 4. We have one, parentheses again. It's an equation. I'm going to distribute 1/2 times 6x. Guys, all I'm thinking about is what's half of 6? 3x. What's half of -4? 2. So we're all set here. Now I'm going to move this over here. I'm going to show you a couple of things that could make your life easier. Oh, that's not. It's 2/3 x. So obviously nobody really likes to work with a fraction. So when I see that this is a 3 down here, one thing we could do to get rid of that is we could now go through and we could multiply everything by 3. So if I multiply everything by 3, what'll happen is on this right side, those 3's cancel out. 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom. So you get just plain 2x. On the left side, I have to remember I'm going to multiply everything by 3, so I need to distribute it. Now, that's much easier. I got rid of the fractions. I can go ahead and solve this. If I do minus 9x, I have -6 equals -7x. As my last step, I'm just going to go ahead and divide everything by -7. Negative over a negative is positive. You can leave it as a fraction. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at number 5. So it just wants me to write this algebraic expression into an algebraic expression without the words. 4 times the sum of 8 and an unknown number subtracted from that unknown. So I want to kind of take things one at a time. 4 times the sum of 8 and an unknown number. That's going to look like this. 4 times, now anytime it says a sum, that automatically means we've got some parentheses in there. So my sum is 8 and an unknown. With an unknown, let's just call that x. So 8 plus x. And then it says subtracted from that unknown. So that means I have to say, here's the unknown, and I'm subtracting all of it from it. It's kind of weird because I had to do that in the front. All right, for number 6, you might get this on day 1 of the Algebra EOC. They talk a lot about those properties. So it says, what property do we have here? Guys, on the left-hand side, I have the same values, A, B, C, A, B, C. The only thing I'm doing differently is different groups. That's the associative property. Think about, who do you associate with? What groups do you hang out with? Do you hang out with the volleyball players? Do you hang out with the band? That's your group, who you associate with. All right, moving to 7, this is another literal equation. It's a little bit more difficult. We have to solve it for p, but you might have noticed, I've got 2 p's. And so what we have to do in this case is we have to take it out. That's going to be my greatest common factor. It's a little strange, so follow along. I'm going to bring my a down. Since I have 2 p's, I'm going to take a p in the front and then a set of parentheses. Now mathematically what I'm doing is I'm going to divide everything by p. So right here, p divided by p gives me 1. I'll bring down my plus sign. Over here, p at the top, p at the bottom, we'll get rid of that and we'll just bring down RT. Now, I still need to get the p all by itself. So I'm thinking this means p times the quantity 1 plus RT. So opposite of times is divide. I'm going to divide by 1 plus RT. That'll go away. Now again, I got to kind of move over this way. So now I have a all over 1 plus RT equals P. That's my answer. I got P all by itself. These are tricky, so just stick with it. This could be day 1 where you don't need a calculator. Moving on to number 8, we have to solve. We have an equation, but this is a little bit different. This is called a proportion. One fraction equal to another fraction. The way we solve a proportion is that we're going to cross multiply. So I'm going to do 4x minus 2 times 5. When I do that diagonal, I have to be really careful that I'm going to do 5 and then parentheses 4x minus 2. I have to multiply 5 by all of 4x minus 2. My other diagonal is going to be 3 times 2x. We're going to set our diagonals equal to each other. Now I can solve. Distribute your 5. 5 times 4x is 20x. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. Over here, we've got 3 times 2x, that's 6x. I've got x's on both sides, so I'm going to do a minus 20x on each side. So now I've got negative 10 equals 6 minus 20 is negative 14x. Last step to get x alone is divide everything by negative 14. Now, we know a negative divided by a negative is going to be positive, but I also need to think, like, could I simplify that? And I can. I can divide everything by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So I get positive 5 over 7. All right, guys, last one, number 9. We have a crazy fraction here. We have to solve this guy. So one of the things that we could do, and I'm going to show you something that I do, because one of the things I notice about this fraction is that the denominator is a 4. Now, the numbers that I'm distributing into are 20 and a 12. And I know something interesting is that 4 can go into 20 and it can go into 12. So I am going to do that. I know this sounds weird, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm thinking 4 goes into 20 5 times. So I'm going to divide it and make it 5x. 4 goes into 12 3 times. So I'm going to divide it and make it a 3. So I just got rid of the 4. It's weird. You can do that. Now I can proceed. I now have this. I'm going to write it over here for clarity. I've got 3, and then in parentheses, 5x minus 3 minus 7 equals x plus 5. I'll distribute my 3. So I've got 15x minus 9 minus 7 equals x plus 5. We'll combine like terms. 15x minus 16 equals x plus 5. Remember, this is technically a 1x. I'm going to move that to the other side. So 15x minus 1x, that's 14x. Sorry, you hear my dog going crazy. Now I'm going to add 16 to both sides. Come on, birdie. So we add 16. All right, moving it up here. Now I've got 14x equals 5 and 16, or 21. Divide by 14. Now here's where I'm thinking again, 21 over 14. Can that be simplified by anything? 7 goes into both. So let's always give our answers in the most simplified form. And we'll get 3 over 2. All right, moving on to page 5, guys. Again, a property. This is perfect example for a session 1 problem. In this case, all that changed, you still have an A on both sides, a B on both sides, is just the order in which they added them. That's called the commutative property, in this case, of addition. And this would be very easy. You just need to know those properties, no calculations. Clearly, you don't need a calculator. Okay, moving on to number 2. We could do it the way that I was just telling you, where I see my denominators. I see a 5. 5 goes into 20. 5 goes into 15. On this side, I see a 10. 10 goes into 20. 10 goes into 90. So I might approach it that way. So 5 goes into 20 4 times. Keep the x with it. 5 goes into 15 3 times. Let's do the other side. 10 goes into 20 2 times. So it'll be 2x. 10 goes into 90 9 times. So if I rewrite my problem now, it looks like this. Negative 3 times the quantity 4x plus 3 equals 1 times the quantity 2x minus 9. Now it's much easier. I got rid of all those fractions. Now this is old news. You know how to do this. Negative 3 times 4x is negative 12x. Negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. Now 1 out in front, I mean, you can distribute it, but 1 times 2x is just 2x. 1 times negative 9 is negative 9. I've got x's on both sides, so I'm going to bring the baby to the mama, take the smaller x and bring it to the bigger one. 2 and 12, that gives me 14x. Let's add 9 to both sides. Negative 9, positive 9, I get 0. A lot of times when you get a 0 like this, students stop. We're not quite done. Get x alone. Divide by 14. Well, 0 divided by 14 is 0. Now I'm done. Now that's my answer. Okay. All right, taking a look at number 3, it is an inequality. I've got a lot of parentheses here, so I'm going to need to distribute first. I get 6x plus 30. Over here, careful, that's like a negative 1. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. We can combine like terms. Look at the left side. A 6x, a minus 1x. That's a 5x. Continue. Positive 30, positive 40. That's a positive 34. Okay, let's get our variables on the same side. I've got x's on both. Bring the baby to the mama. 5x is smaller. That's what I'm moving. Now I'm going to kind of squeeze it in over here. So my 5x's went away. I now have 34 is less than or equal. 7x minus 5x is 2x. I'm going to add 6 to both sides. 34 and 6 is 40. Now divide both sides by 2. Okay, you could leave the answer like that, or if you wanted to switch it and put x on the left and 20 on the right, you can do that, but just be cautious that when I am looking at my answer, my inequality is opening to the x. That means I need to continue to keep it opening to the x like this. So usually it's preferable to leave the variable on the left. All right, let's take a look over here. We've got a big problem here. So according to our order of operations, I want to begin with my parentheses. So I'm going to do what's in here and what's in here kind of at the same time. So I'm going to keep everything else the same. My 2 is staying. Negative 1 and negative 3 is negative 4. Now, I'm just going to keep that minus 6 over negative 3 minus 4. Okay, 2 minus 3 to the 0. This is one thing we have not talked about together yet, but maybe you remember. Anything to the power of 0 equals 1. So if I have x to the 0, it's 1. Negative 5 to the 0, it's 1. 1.78 to the 0, it's 1. So in this case, 3 to the 0 means 1, or 2 minus 1. So that's going to just be 1. So I did my parentheses. Next, I'm going to do my exponents. So I'm going to have 2 times negative 4 squared. This is what I'm doing at the moment. Negative 4 squared means negative 4 times negative 4, which is a positive 16. Now, one of the things I'm going to do, because I'm really limited on my room, is I'm going to do this. This is like saying negative 6 divided by negative 3. That's going to give me a positive 2. Now I'm going to do this. Negative 4 times 1, that's a negative 4. And let's bring that negative 7 along. Okay, I did parentheses, I did exponents. Now I need to do multiplication. 2 times 16, that's 32. All I have left at this moment is adding and subtracting. And we did discuss this together on Friday, that if I just had adding and subtracting, we go left to right. So 32 plus 2, that's 34. 34 minus 4, that's 30. And 30 minus 7, that's 23. I know this seems like a whole bunch of steps and work, but keep in mind, you have unlimited time. Take the time, show the work, earn as many points as you can so we can meet this requirement. All right, let's move on to number 5. We have an absolute value. We did talk about that together. So absolute value, my first step is I always need to isolate the absolute value bars. That means this 4 has got to get out of there. Well, right now, this is 4 times the absolute value of x minus 2. The opposite of times is divide. So now that'll give me absolute value of x minus 2 equals 3. Once we get our absolute value alone, we make our 2 equations. The first one is the original. I write what I have without the absolute value bars. The second one, I'm going to switch the sign of what it's equal to. X minus 2 equals negative 3. One thing we discussed, guys, is that whatever is in those absolute value bars, that's untouchable. You never change that sign. We're only changing this sign of what it's equal to. My final step is I have to solve both. So let's add 2 to both sides. I'm going to get x equals 5. That's one answer. Add 2 to both. And I'm going to get x equals negative 1. I have 2 solutions in this problem. X equals negative 1 and x equals 5. All right, so let's take a look at number 6 here. Now, number 6 is going to be a little bit different because in the previous problems, when we looked at the denominator, like here 3 would go in evenly to those numbers. In our case here on number 6, 3 does not divide evenly into 2 or into 1. So I'm going to do this a little bit different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply everything by the least common denominator. So I'm going to write that here, multiply all terms by the LCD. Now I've got 2 denominators, a 3 and a 6. The least common denominator in this case is going to be a 6. So we're going to multiply over here by a 6. We're going to multiply here by a 6 and here by a 6. So now what's going to happen is 3 goes into 6 2 times. So you get 2 times 2, or 4 times the quantity 2x minus 1. 6 at the top, 6 at the bottom goes away. We get 5x minus 4 times 6, or 24. Now we can solve that. We got rid of all of our fractions. I'm just going to copy it up here so I have a little bit more room. Distribute our 4, so we get 8x minus 4. I've got variables on both sides here. So I'm going to bring the baby to the mama. I'm going to do minus 5x on each side. So 8x minus 5x is 3x. And now you guys know where to go from here. So this will result in 3x equals negative 20. Last step to get x alone, we got to divide everything by 3. So I get negative 20 over 3. Okay. Number 7, it's just another multi-step equation. Don't forget, negative in front of parentheses, I've got to distribute that negative 1. So I get negative 2x. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. I'll combine like terms. 4 minus 3, that gives me 1. minus 2x equals 5x minus 9. Sorry guys, I'm just shifting all of this down here. I'll bring the baby to the mama, so I'm going to add 2x to both sides.
What is this? A chicken? Egg?
Add 9.
How are we supposed to get an egg off of like a thing that looks like a...
Divide by 7.
You're so good.
So we get x equals 10 over
Personally,
7.
I was just drawing an egg like...
Number 8, we're on to another one of those literal equations. So it's just saying what is A. In other words, we need to get A by itself. So what we'll do is I'm going to start with getting them on the same side. So I'll add A to both sides. That'll give me 5A minus 2B equals C. I'll move the 2B over, so we'll add 2B. Now I have 5A equals C plus 2B. Remember guys, my job is to get this A alone. So now all I need to do is move that 5. So we'll divide both sides by 5 and we have our answer. A equals C plus 2B over 5. Last question is another multi-step equation. I see parentheses, so I want to get rid of that. I'll distribute my 5. I'm bringing everything else down, showing my work. 10x minus 9x, we get 1x minus 5 equals 3 minus x. This is a 1x over there. So I'm going to add 1x to both sides to get my variables together. 1x and 1x is 2x. Add 5. So now I've got 2x equals 8. Divide by 2 and we get x is 4. Sorry guys if that's squeezed so low down there. All right, so I hope this helped and I will see you soon.